Logan Square. 606 Media presents the Djv Show.
Djv. My man, DJ Ozone.
Hey,
First question.
let's go.
Ozone,
Yeah.
right? So, like, what does that really mean? What is Ozone? How'd you come up with the name? Let's give the juice.
All right, bro. Shout out to my homie DJ Rec. That's like, the other half of fucking up the game. We walked into this journey together to, young high school kids, Latinos growing up with certain aspirations. It's a funny story to that. So back in high school, I always had this thing that sometimes when people would talk to me, I would just like randomly like zone out. So my homie DJ Rec picked up on that. And, I'm assuming maybe he got annoyed or something. I don't know what it was. Cause I'll be like, he'll be talking. I'll be like, huh?
Daydreaming. Just daydreaming.
He's like, bro, you're always zoning out, man.
Yeah.
From now on, I'm going to start calling you Ozone. I'm like, all right.
Shout out
Whatever.
to my
I'm
boy
like,
DJ Rec, bro.
I'm like, that sounds kind of cool, So I just ran. It became like the thing. Like eventually, like people just started catching on, and like my full name's Omar Zamora, so I'm like,
oh, that makes sense.
That kind of goes. I'm like, I'm gonna let the universe do its work. So that's literally how that started. I didn't have like no nickname or nothing growing up. So until that moment, that was like the thing that changed the trajectory to like low key. I was DJing already, and flyers used to say like DJ Omar Z or something because I didn't have like a quote unquote DJ name until that moment.
How long were you DJing without a name?
Probably like a year.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm in high school, so it's just like a little after school program stuff, like
so. And by the way,
rec center stuff.
By the way, only because there is this. I personally know DJ Rec, the guy that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's DJ Rec that I also worked with V5.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's two DJ Recs.
Spelled differently.
So which Rec are you talking about?
Man, we talking about the actual DJ Rec. The definitely, because I know V5 DJ Rec. That's my brother too. God bless. Much respect. He came a little bit later. So yeah, we talking about like DJ Rec, like,
Yeah, I had him on For the People.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I heard the drop of fucking up the game.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Fucking Up the Game, let's talk about, before we talk about your actual DJing, you've made yourself very popular, a real heavy hitter, in my opinion, for coming in here, but you have a slogan, fucking up the game. Like, where did you get this idea from? How does that stem from? Talk about that.
Fucking up the game, that takes place back in me and DJ Rex mixtape era. What is happening at the time is, we're going heavy with the festivals in the sense of having DJ slash mixtape selling booths. And we had our homie Peter, also known as Power. He was the guy who was like our intern, like our assistant and everything. And we were working on putting together like some mix, probably had to be like a reggaeton CD or something. And there was like one, we were recording one of the blends and one of the transitions, and he just blurs out like, yo, you guys are going crazy right now. You guys are like fucking up the game. Like, Peter, what you say? Like, you guys are going crazy. Nah, what you say before that? Like, you guys are fucking up the game. And we were like, yeah, that sounds cool, man. I'm gonna run with that,
bro.
And then that was literally how
that's 2 for 2.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
DJ
yeah.
Ozone,
Yeah.
thanks to Rec, and then Power
and then Power for fucking up the game.
How important is that? Because the DJ name, and then you got the slogan. We need that as DJ producers, industry.
Well, yeah,
Fuego.
Yeah, DJ Khaled and another one, right? And everyone
right.
knows that.
Yeah,
but this is before.
Well, you said it was still Pitbull was doing the same thing.
DJ Drama, Gangsta Grills era.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that mixtape era, that was the whole thing. Like DJs had like their whole like little slogans and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why like that came in so clutch, because it's like me and Rec are doing the mixtape distribution thing, and it's like, oh man, this is something we could attach to the branding. Now it doesn't just go for only limited to like DJ Rec, DJ Ozone. Now it's like DJ Rec, DJ Ozone, like fucking up the game to the point that it like organically almost became like a DJ duo, and it's like I'm just chasing my dreams with my best friend. That's how I'm looking at it at the time. You got
a big pun in Fat Joe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The two brothers, the heavy hitters, right?
Yeah.
So I think literally that's pretty cool.
What's your slogan, by the way?
For the love of sports.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's my thing, when I do my sports podcast. My question to you is, you're talking about the mixtape era, right?
Yeah.
Obviously that is no longer apparent as far as like selling mixtapes at the mega mall or, so forth at the festivals. Like, how much money will you bring it in with these mixtapes?
Man, thousands of dollars for sure.
Oh, man.
For sure. Like, you're talking about two kids who just graduated out of high school. And so it was definitely making sense. Like at the end of the festivals, like it's like, all right, what's the next festival? And then trying to find like, okay, the PR fest. Okay, what else is out there? Fiesta del Sol.
Yes.
All right, and you just keep it going, trying to get in where you fit. And of course, you got to pay the fees to
get a booth, right.
So it was literally, we're treating this thing like an empire, in the sense of, because that's what we was trying to build.
Right.
So again, at the time, it's like it's mixtape era, so it's like
what year is that? Just so you,
we're talking about
for
like
the new kids.
03, 04, 05, 06, 07, for sure, from 05 to like 2010.
Yeah, because we transitioned to from tapes to CDs.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a big thing, but it's like you're making this money. Like, what was that first festival though? Like, you had to prepare yourself. What was that preparation for that first festival?
It usually took about a week, because before we started getting our own duplicators, we were literally paying other people to duplicate our tapes.
Okay.
Right? Which, like anything, you start, save that money, and eventually get the equipment that you need. Like eventually from that money or making in festival, they went from no longer having to outsource.
So you weren't using your mom and dad's dual tape deck at home, right?
Man, I think we're already past that, man. The tape era was already, that was man, we're already past. We got definitely in the CD era, going to Micro Center, buy blank CDs.
Yeah, you got a stack, 100 packs,
Yeah, that's actually how me and Rec pretty much crossed paths. So we met we're going to the same high school, Noble Street Charter High School.
No way.
We both happen to be doing.
Why?
Because
I went to Santa Maria.
Okay.
That was my church.
Yeah. We both happen to be doing the same thing, burning CDs and selling them at the school.
Likewise.
Yeah. The way it kind of got weird was that, he had like a set clientele already. And I figured out that if I go to Micro Center and buy these low budget CDRs, I can sell mines for cheaper. So it'll be like, the new Big Pun just came out.
Right.
And he'll go try to say it to his usual customers and be like, oh, no, I already got mines from Ozone. And then you'll go to the next store, like, I already got mines from Ozone. And then, he's trying to figure like, what the, and
how?
It was because
it was cost effective, right?
Yeah. But me and him had already like, started building that. It was like, look, bro, like just go to Micro Center and, there's this one pack that they sell for the super low that.
And by the way, they were really cheap as fuck.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
You left them in the sun. That shit melted out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Any scratch, forget about it. It was over.
Yeah. And it was like the blank ones that had nothing on the top.
Right.
They literally just looked like, you know, that one time when Kanye put out that one album cover that looked like a just plain CD. Yeah, it looked literally like that. So and I was into graffiti at the time, so I'm getting real creative with writing the name. So, you know, presentation and aesthetic is all playing a part. Things that is not registering at the time, but when I think back on it, I'm like, that's all part of branding.
What is that? So already entrepreneurial wise, like where does that stem from? Like your mom, your dad, your grandpa, where in your family is that?
Both of my parents. In a good way and bad way.
Okay.
And I say that because, you know, from my dad, like my dad was definitely a big time drug dealer back in the 90s. You know, he ended up going away for 20 years, came back home in 2012. So there was the being exposed, not necessarily to those transactions, but the lifestyle.
Hustle.
Yeah, like, you know, like you're the kid who gets picked up in these certain cars that you see all your friends don't get picked up in these certain cars. And it's like, you know, or, you know, just little things back then that were a big deal, like having Jordans like a month and a half that, you know, where it's like now it's like that's a little bit more common, but back in like the early 90s, that was like, you know, that was a privilege only drug dealers had because they were paying the extra money. So that kind of thing. I remember like having the Super Nintendo 3 weeks before it actually came out. Where I only had one video game because the stores had not started selling.
Wow.
What game was it?
Zelda. Yeah.
It's a classic.
So it's like, you know, you mix that, and then my mom, you know, both of my parents came from Dominican Republic, trying to make a way. Like my mom was always a super hustler, kept a job. She sold jewelry. She did the whole like selling Mary Kay. You know, like
you gotta be a hustler to sell Mary Kay and Avon and all that stuff. You gotta be a hustler.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So it's like, Avon was definitely on the list too. So just seeing that, not understanding, you know, that this comes from a place of necessity and etc. But it's like, you know, I'm just seeing that, and I'm seeing a certain lifestyle which went away when my dad got locked up. So, but that's still stuck because it's like, you know, you go from going to school to dressing a certain way, like especially with sneakers, Jordans. That was like the thing.
I had Payless.
Yeah, well, you know,
it was different for me. My dad said you get one pair of gym shoes and that's the whole year. And I had LA Gear. At least it wasn't Payless. It wasn't Champion. You know, back then you wore Champion back in the day. You're getting, you know, your butt kicked.
I had the new Shaquille O'Neal. This guy was rocking the new Michael Jordans.
Yeah, bro. So it's like, imagine going from that. So all of a sudden your dad goes away, and now it's like your mom takes you to like Foot Locker and be like, you can only pick from this wall, which is like the 2 for $89, whatever. And you're looking at this wall that got, you know, the Jordans, the Percy Millers, like, you know, you can go down the list of all these $160 and up shoes, and you're just like, I want from this side, and it's like, no, we can only get from this side.
How old that sticks? Yeah. How old were you in that transition? Because were you still DJing there?
Yeah,
during that time, or is you still younger? Like what was your age when that happened?
When that is happening, I'm about 9-10 years old.
So you still haven't DJ. You're not DJing yet.
No, but I still want to be a DJ. Wow. I made a decision that I want to be DJ in 3rd grade.
Talk about that.
You know, shout out to the Cable Box back in the day. A great movie, you know, featuring Omar Epps and Tupac Shakur called Juice.
Okay. Yeah, Juice.
It was like, I watched that opening scene. Literally, I'm in 3rd grade, opening scene, and I'm just like, I don't know what that is, but that's what I want to do. I was just like captivated. Like I was like sucked in, like, yo, that's what I want to do. And I remember literally I was in the school band at that time. And I remember going back and telling my music teacher, shout out Mr. Rivera, I'm like, I don't want to play the xylophone anymore. Do you have turntables? And he's just like, what, bro? Like, yeah, I want a DJ. That's not an instrument. I'm like, all right. Cool.
Debatable.
Yeah. And I held on to that from 3rd grade. So my freshman year of high school, which when I got my first job and saved my 2 first paychecks, got me a very basic DJ in a box setup.
Yeah. Do you remember which one it was? What was that?
They had to be, they were either Geminis or Newmarks, but they were very like entry level, like this is my biggest thing, right? Keep in mind, I'm
Yeah.
watching Juice. You know, I'm watching all these DMC competitions, blah, blah. So I'm thinking I'm going to set these things up and I'm going to start scratching. They were belt drive.
Oh, boy.
So imagine, like you said, oh, you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. Let's do it. I already had started buying records before I got this. So it's like, you know, you got to wait till that thing comes back. And I'm just like, oh, no, what's going on? So then I'm basically figuring out, like, Techniques is the industry standard.
Yeah, direct drive.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm just like, oh, nah, man. I just saved my first 2 paychecks and bought this. And I'm like, and then you go look up how much do I got to spend to get a pair of Techniques. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a while. But still, I'm like running through it. At one point, there was this man. I was part of this. It was like an after school program called Build. And there used to be this guy who used to work there. His name was Felix. Prior to him working there, he's like, you know, a lot of the people who were doing gang prevention intervention there is because prior to that, they were, you know, heavily involved in gang culture. I remember this guy named Felix, Big Lion King. One day, he walks up to me at the after school program. He's like, hey, you still doing like that DJ stuff? And I'm like, yeah, man, you know, I just, you know, I got my setup or whatever, but it's very mid. And he's like, man, when the after school program finished, I'm gonna show you I got something in the car. Like, you know, let's see, you know, I'll sell it to you. So I walk to the car, it's literally a set of Techniques and a Pioneer mixer. And I'm just like, yo, he's like, yeah, somebody owed me some money, but they ain't had no money to pay up. So this is how they had to pay. I'm like, but I'll sell them to you for $400.
Wow.
And I'm just like, man, bro, I ain't got it right. He's like, don't worry about it. Take them, pay me little by little. Just, and that was probably the moment where it's like, man, this blessing really came out of nowhere. Cause it's like, I really had like saved up my 2 tracks to pursue this dream. And here came this.
Well, it's manifestation, right?
Yeah,
it's manifestation. You put that into the world and you're like, I want to do this. I want to do this. And you're positive about the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
And everyone knows I'm trying to be a DJ. I'm trying to be a DJ. You're doing the best to stay out of the gang life. Yeah. And people are respecting that. And like, well, this will keep him out of the gang life if he's DJing. Yeah. And it just so happens that that blessing came in that.
It's debatable because we're not talking about his genre yet, but it gets pretty turned up there.
Well,
it does, but I definitely hear what you're saying because
100%.
I ran into a lot of personalities like that.
Yeah.
Many times in my life that, you know, might have been involved in certain things, you know, that might have caught my attention where they'll be like, nah, like, you know, you're destined to do this. Like, you know, what we got going on right here. Don't worry. Like, and that goes from everything from, you know, drug dealers in the neighborhood, gang members in the neighborhood, you know, like
I'm a little older than you, so again, I grew up in the same thing where I grew up at the Park District, and it was a kind of a no-fly zone. Yeah, no gang banging at the park.
Okay,
whatever you do outside,
do
it outside. But when you're at the park, there's no gang banging, no crazy hats, this and that. You're here, you know. You understand that these younger kids look up to the older kids. So if you're gang banging, guess what they're going to do is gang bang, right? So we would have a lot of people that would come in and they would influence us. Like we had an art teacher there. So like there was kids that were really good at art. Cool. You have an outlet. Hey, you're going to play basketball. Cool. Now, when we were walking home, we all got passes. Oh, he's a hooper. Oh no, he's just a school guy.
Yeah.
Like they knew all the park kids and said, no, they get a free pass. Let them go through, make sure they get home safe.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and again, back then we were talking about, you know, early and late 90s where neighborhoods were neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Everybody knew each other. Everybody's mom knew each other. You know, even if they were gangbangers, you knew everybody's family. So, you know, all right, he's a hooper. Let him hoop.
Yep.
He's going to go to school for hooping. We're going to push that. So I can understand where someone's coming like, I came up to this and someone paying their debt, but I'm going to pay it forward. And I'm going to give it to this kid who's actually trying to do something with his life. So that's beautiful.
That's literally how they used to be with me.
So one of my questions was, have you ever, I mean, rock turntables? Because every time I see you DJ,
Yeah.
it's at a very different setup, right?
Yes.
But so do you know how to do turntables?
Okay, so I started with turntables. Like I'm literally the last generation of that, because it was my turntable era was very short-lived, because that's when the CDJ starts popping up. So it's like I have these crates of records that I've been carrying around this whole time I've been DJing. Even like I started like getting gigs like out of the city like early. So it's like I still remember gigs like carrying like, you know, my DJ coffin and my crates and stuff like that. That's why, you know, I understand there's people out there who are like vinyl purists and all that.
Right.
And I think about those days where I had to fucking put my crates and my coffins in my 1990 Geo Prism at like 15, 16 years old. So when I hear somebody talking about some like, man, F Serato, which was like a thing, you know, when Serato first came, and I'd be like, F what he talking about. I'm glad I can put this in my laptop now, because I'm not interested in going back to carrying crates and all that. You know what I'm saying? To each their own, you know, but to me, I'm like, what I do miss is the feel of buying, right? And scratching on some 1200s, which, you know, shout out to the Ref 7 by Pioneer. Like, I feel like I have the Ref 7s. That restored that feeling. Like, to me, I'm like, anytime I get to DJ on a Ref 7 controller, I'm like,
explain what a Ref 7 is. That it looks like a turntable, but it's still electronic, correct?
In my opinion, it's the closest thing without being range. So like it's a Pioneer, they're officially Pioneer, they're battle ready. So they have their sideways, which I grew up doing battle ready techniques.
Same.
And it feels very, I mean, I'm be honest, like I like that way better than anything I've been on. So I like the Ref 7s.
The 15-year-old gets in me. It's happy anytime.
Yeah, that happens to me too.
Wow,
so funny, you know what's funny is that when I moved into my second house, the person that used to live there used to be a DJ.
Okay.
And he had the basement full of, like, I guarantee you, like 40, 50 crates of What the Records.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, cool. I can be a DJ. My friends are DJs. My dad's like, take all that shit with you. He's not going to DJ.
Wow.
So his whole dream got shattered.
Yeah. He was literally going to leave me everything he had. Everything. He's like, I'm done. I'm done DJing. I'm retired. I'm going to start a family, this and that. My dad's like, nope, take all that shit with you. I'm like, no.
I'm pretty sure it's because he, you know, like from, I think every remember old school.
Yeah.
I was
I'm first generation, right?
1983.
So
like that's what, how old are you? Yeah. So like my mom's like, my dad, like, oh, there's no money in DJing.
Exactly.
That's it. It's like we're not gonna feed you that. Like there's no money in DJing, right? So that was the mindset, which we can go about later, but interesting.
Yeah, and I collect vinyl. That's just crazy.
It's good to know that you actually understand that, because I'm speaking for two different sides of the industry. One industry says I like what you do, how you were able to come up, and the other side saying this guy can't do vinyl, this guy's not old school, this guy's not traditional, right? But you kind of just lay down the foundation there of like, and so my question here is like, you know, you got these two separate sides of people who actually respect everything you've done, and then others that are just like, nah, this guy, he's just a show, he's just not really. So how do you address that?
I get that a lot, right? Because it's like, so, you know, for people who know me as of recent years, like I have a certain style of DJing that's, you know, it's very unorthodox. People don't understand it unless I explain it, right?
To go for it.
I started with vinyl, obviously did the CDJ thing. When Serato came around, I started DJing in internal mode. So for those that don't know what internal mode is like usually you see a DJ, you see scratch, two plates, blah blah. Internal mode, you're more manipulating with buttons and the cues on the laptop and mixer.
Like this?
Yes.
So you have your pre-made sounds or
pre-made
music
cues.
Okay.
Yeah, which is like timestamps of where you want to start a record and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The reason why that became more appealing to me, because also me as a producer, you know, like dealing with pads, MPC and all that, that felt like I was beat making. And that's why it was like I ran with that style and, you know, done wonders with it, where it's like your purist DJ will be like, oh, he can't scratch, oh, he doesn't use turntable, or like blah blah. And it's like, to me, I don't care, because I'm like, I started with 1200s buying orthophon cartridges and all that. So it's like, for somebody like to try to quote unquote shame me for what they assume is me not knowing a certain thing, it's like, I don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm not here at the party to impress the other DJs. My priority is that the people in the dance floor have a good time. You know, it's like everybody has different ways of cooking a fire steak, but at the end of the day, the goal is for that steak to be fire, to be a good
That's a great
steak.
analogy. Great analogy.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, again, it's perfect, because you can go to restaurant A, B, C, or D, and they all cook it differently, and they may all be great. It's just a different flavor. So you DJ in a different manner. At the end of the day, are the people dancing on the dance floor? Yes. So guess what? He's doing his job. It doesn't matter how you get from point A to point B. You got there.
So there's a very unique, interesting way of DJing. So we have the 64 bar DJ, you know, like they're doing long mixes and shit, and they got the loops going on. We get that, DJ. Congratulations, you can do that. And then some of them don't do that. You know, sometimes they just do quick mixing, right? Depending on your marketplace. What made Ozone very different, being on the same bill, is that I always compared him to like a Sean Mack, or even like a New York DJ, where they would like, it's not that they're not DJing, but the way they talk on the microphone, or the way they use music to get like a crowd.
It's crowd control. It's called crowd control.
No, it's beyond that, because there's DJs that never talk in a mic and they just blend with crowd control. But this guy, he does something very different. So where do you get that style from?
Okay, so it's a mix of crowd control, timing, an element of surprise mixed with dialogue. That's the system that I kind of throughout the years adopted, right? Like a lot of people talk about crash mixing, which a lot of people identify Sean Mack and Timbuktu. God bless his soul.
Rest in peace.
They had a way of mixing. Me, as somebody who grew up in Chicago from Dominican parents, but majority of my family was always in New York and Dominican Republic. I grew up between all those three, you know, elements of like what they're doing over there, what they're doing here. New York DJs, for the most part, crash mixing, talking on the mic, blah, blah. Chicago DJs, more transition blending, right? Which stems from us as a city known for house music.
Right.
So I could understand why DJs from Chicago mix like that, you know, like when like a DJ Nonstop, you know, that was like you're mixing with the breaks, you know, people making these edits with like 8-bar breaks, you know, depending on the song, 4-bar breaks, to be able to make those seamless transitions. The problem that I used to have with that way of mixing, it was that I felt it didn't leave no room for the element of surprise. Because it's like when you're doing that transition, you can hear what songs are coming out.
Yes, you can hear right? on the bottom of the beat.
It's smooth.
Yes.
It's clean.
It's
But it can become redundant and predictable. So my whole thing is like, what if I take this style and this style? That's why when you're listening to me, there's going to be songs that I'm going to blend in, transition like that. And there's going to be songs that I'm going to crash mix. There's songs that I'm going to have like certain dialogues right before I drop the song, to kind of like, I'm prepping the crowd to gauge that emotion, project that emotion, you know, little routines that I come up with that I use. Things like have a lineup of all these records that I'm like, okay, 9 out of 10 times you're going to get a large group in the club that feels some type of way about baby daddy, baby mama, or their ex. So I might do a dialogue and be like, if your ex ain't, make some noise right now. Blah. You know, let's give them a friendly reminder, and then I'll play the song. It ain't nothing to cut that off.
Right.
You know, and then from that song, it goes is like, as a Latino DJ, second generation, you know, I'm always thinking like, my biggest thing was always I want to be the DJ that plays for the Latino second generation who came outside to listen to reggaeton, but also want to listen to Chief Keef. You know what I'm saying? Wants to listen to hip hop. I remember for a point in time, it was like you were either a Latin DJ or you were a hip hop DJ.
Right.
Me, I'm like, I want to go to the club and listen to both. And I want to become that.
You would see those kind of DJs at after hour spots. It wasn't at regular spots. It'd be an after hour spot. You're like, hey man, we got to go to so-and-so spot because that DJ does amazing crap. Like you've never heard stuff like this before. And that's stuff you're talking about where you're blending house with Chief Keef or where people, you know, Latin with house and like different aspects of different genres that are getting mixed in. And that's what makes somebody a great DJ. Just take something that's not supposed to go together and make it seamless.
So so with him though, so just so you understand, a crash DJ is someone that just crashes the track in. And so there's like this split of like you could hear like a beat in the background coming in, but him, Sean Mack, Timbuktu, they found a way to, and New York DJs find ways to put a song in and get a reaction without having to blend it in. It just goes blah, like it just turns on.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, culo, or all of a sudden you hear, I don't know, fucking, I don't know.
Well, he can give me a better example. Give me an example.
So where I was going, right, with that whole dialogue, timing, element of surprise, right? Like I just said, give this dialogue about like, you know, if your baby daddy ain't makes a noise, if your ex ain't, well, like, let's give a friendly member, it ain't nothing to cut that off. So you get it right to the hook and wait till that last bar where everybody in the club singing, it ain't nothing to cut that. And you cut it, right? But with the timing, right? When you do that to mix genres, right? Now I'm like, let me stay in theme. We're talking about F your ex, F your baby mama was going to come on after that. It ain't nothing to cut that bitch off. Then you hear bing, bing, which is how Te Bote starts.
Right.
So now you get the whoa kind of thing going. So now you play that. The hook that they will there, everybody sing out loud. So, and while I'm doing that, I blend in I Don't Fuck With You by Big Sean.
Right.
So again, we're still on this whole like I hate my baby daddy, I hate my ex theme, which
that's a
plays
vibe
with people's emotions.
Right. It's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
This guy, Flymax, shout out to Flymax, he was here earlier, but like he's inspired a huge generation of individuals that you're just able to create a vibe with the way you DJ. Now, one side is kind of like, let's say Blue and Red, right? One side says that's not DJing, that's just crash mixing, but he just explained how it takes a lot of preparation to do this shit, bro.
Yes.
And confidence to pull it. I could never DJ the way he does.
No?
I mean,
have you tried?
Well, yeah. Sometimes I'd be like if I would running out of time, I'm too drunk, I'd be like, you know, single ladies make some noise, and I'll just drop like
Beyonce,
you know, something. Anything.
Single ladies, like it has to be a theme. Like but you have to go with it.
He's doing this like almost every track. That's my point. His set is based.
Are you memorizing these things, or are you going off the top of your dome like that?
How do you configure that?
About a lot of trial and error, right? A lot of experimenting. I tell people, be like, "Do you practice all the time?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, in my head." Right? Because I'm confident of my skill on the technical side, right? Where it's like, okay, as I'm matching BPMs, blah, blah, I got certain cues. I'm confident of that. That's not the part that I'm worried about. It's coming up with these extended routines that it's like, this is what's going to stick out and make the crowd get surprised. You get what I'm saying? Where it's like what I described with that. Or, you know, I can probably go down the list of these type of routines. The only thing that happens and changes is as time has gone by and seeing what new songs are relevant, we're going to plug and play like what goes into this, right? For example, I had routines with like Meek Mill, that intro record that, you know, that everybody dreams and nightmares. You know, I would have like where it's like I looped a certain part where he goes out, where the beat drops and he goes a cappella. And I would play like a boss, right? To keep that same adrenaline. Now, newer generation, I'm a boss by Meek Mill and Rick Ross is not hitting as hard. So now I've substituted that record. Meek Mill intro classic, right? That's forever.
Right.
So now I got to figure out what new record am I going to tie into this routine that's going to fit. Like right now, Went Legit by G Herbo is like that it record. So now instead of bringing I'm both now that's the record I'm bringing in now in that routine, because now it's more fitting for the time.
So he just makes it look super easy. So just to, I mean, for me to you, bro, I'm glad you were able to like really, you know, uncover that, because for my it's a lot of work, man. A lot of preparation, a lot of trial and error. And so that's very interesting stuff, right? And then so yeah, like it's interesting when it comes to just the whole live setup. Now here's another thing, right? When you go to like a live gig, a live event, how important is it to have like your image? Because you come here, you look great, by the way.
Yeah, he does. Hey, shout out to him and shout out to Dat Slush, providing us their sponsor today. Mix those things up for you, man.
That Slush been doing it for a minute, bro.
Yeah,
man.
Oh, which one are you drinking? Ozone.
I'm doing the palcha, you know.
Yeah,
even the Latin vibe.
You're right. You from the island. That's why.
Bro, this tastes
island boy.
Tastes like one of my grandma's limbes right now, bro. Like, shout out my grandma. Like, my grandma's legendary, bro. She's the limbe lady in Humboldt Park on Augusta.
Oh, nice.
Everybody used to pull up, like, bro, still to this day, bro.
Talk about hustling. Limbes.
In the 80s. Yeah. And I watched that woman paid off her 3 flat off limbes, bro. I saw it with my own eyes. Bro. Like, my grandparents literally are still right there, Augusta and Campbell.
Nice.
That 3 flat. They done came too many times, try to like with some big offers, and she's like, nah. This is
salud.
Thing in the fact. This is a generational wealth in real time.
Yeah. So image, my man.
Yes.
You have entrepreneur mindset. Branding is like your thing.
Yeah.
Talk about why image is so important. Why is image so important?
I think it ties down to a lot of things that have always sparked my interest. Outside of DJing, my other passion is fashion. Like, to me, that's been a thing for me since I was a kid.
Fashion.
It's something that I've been, like, outside of music. If you ask me what else do I know, like I always said, if I'm not gonna make any music, or if I choose one day, to be done with the music thing, I know what's next. Fashion. And it's always what's about tying those two things together, which has led to a lot of great things and, has changed the trajectory for a lot of situations for me. But it all goes back to image. It all goes back to marketing.
Is it important to have a good brand image?
Yes, 1,000%. And there's one person I give credit to, that it was the person that I saw do it even before the fashion thing, like the way they were marketing themselves, right? And that's Sean Mack. To me, the biggest thing with Sean Mack was, as a young kid watching this man do his thing, was, this guy is the DJ, but markets himself like a rapper. You know how like you already sees the posters on the walls and the poles, or the wrapped trucks with like artist faces and stuff. Like, he was literally the first DJ I remember doing that. Like, me going out to certain venues where I actually had to open up for this guy, and it's like the outside of the club, it's like flooded in Sean Mack posters and like Shadyville posters. Like, and I'm just like, I was,
Does it help? Does having that image like help you get more bookings, get more brand deals? Like, why is that important?
I think that's important because what you come to understand is that the skill is important, right? But you also got to remember there's a lot of other DJs out there who also possess the skill. Some that might be even better than you. So it's like, what's going to be your next thing to stand out is going to be marketing. There's a reason why the McDonald's and the Pepsis, and we can go down the list, have such big budgets
for marketing,
because it's like, we probably only spending such and such smaller amount on fries, but I'm
loving it.
Yeah, but that is,
you see that?
Well, brought you to eat this fries,
right?
And now it's like these things going hand in hand, it's what sets you apart. Because I could have went to Ducks to eat some fries.
Hey, shout out to Ducks. They're all gone now.
Yeah.
The last one just died.
What I'm saying? But, Ducks ain't give me a little theme song or, or a slogan or whatever. And that's not to say that it makes the fries from Ducks less than. But when we put them on the stage, like we know who's going to stick out. And that's what I borrowed from Shawn Mac. Like being like, okay, I'm always saying when it comes to a brand, value first, and how you raise the value of it is through the quality of the item, the quality of the service. Then you focus on aesthetic.
Look at that. Look at that.
That was a master class for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then so there's the you talk about fashion.
Yes.
Clothing. Do you work with clothing? Like what is your industry in clothing?
Man, bro. So I literally got like a good extensive role in that because it begins from me being a kid buying iron-on paper, doing like my own designs.
Oh, wow.
I remember customizing Air Force One, stuff like that, right? So that's like how I started dipping my toe in doing it myself. I always was the guy who like I was blowing crazy money shopping on just certain trends and stuff, whereas like like right now, right, like buying a $200 t-shirt is more common, but back then spending $200 for a t-shirt, that was unheard of. And I was literally the kid in 8th grade going to go buy like $200 iceberg t-shirts because it was like I was into that. And also music videos and hip-hop always
big influence,
play a part in that. Like you start seeing these rappers and they're name dropping these certain brands and you're like, well, I like Jay-Z, he's always talking about iceberg, so I want to wear iceberg, or Biggie talking about Coogee. Like I remember going to the Lark at the Brickyard, couldn't afford a Coogee sweater because those things were like $600-700. So I ended up buying like the beanie, which was like $250, and even then that's still like, so that's where all these aspiration comes and the spark of the interest that goes into me doing the customizing to eventually hanging around a lot of people who were involved in that, getting a job at the Basement when the Basement went from I played a part. Yeah, I played a part in the Basement, going from just music to the transition to incorporating streetwear. Shabazz took it to a point where he was going crazy with the music, the mixtapes, etc. But when it was time to make the switch, because now CDs are disappearing,
right?
It was like he brought me on board because he knew, like, all right, I know you're into where I'm trying to, like, he had just bought the building in Wicker Park. So it's like, I want to, this the direction I want to go, and I know you're the perfect person. And I started there as an intern. From intern, went to sales rep to the fashion buyer, to manager. At one point, me and him were partners when it came to a venue called The Box, which was like it was supposed to be like art gallery / streetwear boutique. So there's a lot of that. Even within that, like my connections with like a lot of these streetwear boutiques, like Leaders, St. Alfred's, Juggernaut, like being early part of that wave and meeting people early on that eventually became to be legends. Great. Like I literally met Virgil for the first time at Leaders when he used to do freelance collaborative work for them.
Oh, wow.
Before there was Off-White, before there was Pyrex, it was like this dude who had just graduated from college as an architect and was doing, and it's like, these are the people I'm around.
Right.
Don C, like, all these personalities that it's like eventually became to developing their own worldwide brands that I'm just like, I kind of look at it like being around these people set a standard for myself.
Which is great.
And I think that got incorporated, whether it's been with the DJing, the clothing, or any other like collaborative efforts that I've been part of.
And how important is having like a plan B? Because most DJs are like, in like the DJ area, the music production area, or the wedding, but your secondary is fashion.
Yeah.
Right.
I think now
should all
being
DJs have
older,
like a plan B or
right? I think it's about finding what your passions are besides like if somebody's like DJing, like, okay, cool. You got this, but what else are you
should all DJs try to
why?
look for that?
1,000%, right? And I say that at the age that I am now, as somebody who's like not too far off from turning 40.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm so glad I tapped into all these other things along the journey, from producing, doing the corporate thing, being involved in a lot of marketing partnerships with liquor companies, obviously the fashion stuff, all those things. Is like, now where I'm at, the reality is people in my age group don't party every week like that.
No.
Right?
No.
So with that being said, my following that at one point was like showing up to every single thing that I would throw is like, I come out once a month, maybe twice a month, but it's like, that's fine, because it's a cycle. It's just about prepping for that. And me personally, how I prepped for that was unintentionally, because it's me prepping. I was prepping for that through expanding my palette in the fashion thing, the corporate gigs, producing. Like,
talk about production, because I saw some credits.
Yeah.
What do you have with production?
So that's a great segue, because where I was gonna get at, things can go south, and we saw it, because we saw nightclubs shut down during COVID.
Quick.
And some DJs smarten up. They did the whole Twitch thing and all that. Yeah. For me, I tell everybody, I'm like, I kept my lights on with my royalties. I kept my lights on with my royalty checks, because if it wasn't for that, like, I didn't have no.
What credits do you have? What did you work with? That goes
like Chance the Rapper, Acid Rap. So on there, Everybody Something, that was one of the singles from that album. Definitely a lot of other on the production credits. We got Saba, Chance, DJ the Chicago Kid, Rocky Fresh, GLC, Good Music, Big Sean, and yeah, and that's just the production side. And then I've done like official collaborative mixtapes with, the Cool Kids, Mobb Deep, Joel Ortiz, like, and those are all tapes that were literally collaborative projects with these artists. But I also had my biggest thing when I got into that part, which that was the Cool Kids mixtape that kind of opened that lane. I would always be like, okay, artists give you these records that they want on these mixtapes.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, I make beats too. So like, let's put something in there from you that I produced. And that was kind of like the segue. And it worked out, because the way I would pitch it was, my pitch was with Mobb Deep, with Joel Ortiz, etc. Like, there's way more that it's not coming to mind right now. My pitch was, I'm in the Midwest market. You're a East Coast artist, West, whatever they were. So my pitch was like, I'm trying to shed light on your brand in the Midwest market. And since they would look me up and see like, oh, okay, this guy got this, then it would be like, all right, let's do it.
Isn't it like more of an advantage to get the sound that can, go ahead, get another drink, that can be appeasing to the Midwest market, because we do tap into the East Coast and the West Coast and the South. We're a little like of a melting pot where we like all the music from everywhere else besides our own music. And there's just be like, if you go to to California, most people just listen to California music, right? They're like, oh, East Coast is garbage. And same thing in New York, right? They're like, oh, California music is garbage. And they're like, Chicago, oh, y'all cool. Y'all got house music, right? That's what they always associate with us. But like, I feel like the Midwest market, we're so like pliable to like, oh, that's some cool stuff over there. I like listening to that. West Coast, cool. Dirty South, cool. Like we like a little bit of everything. We're a melting pot when it comes to music. So when you're saying, hey, you want to play these records and you want me to produce this for your song, I can do this better. Where it appeases the masses, and you're thinking about the masses. You're not thinking West Coast, East Coast, South. You're like, I can do this where everyone's gonna like it. So like when you're like, they give you like 45 records, you're like, oh, I know what I can do with this, and I'm gonna make this way better. And that's your pitch, right?
Yeah, definitely my pitch, and it's what comes out of that. For example, like I remember when the Cool Kids started popping, like in that like, but it's had to be like 2009, maybe 08 or that around that time. Did their first mixtape, and that thing went global. Like I remember, like the biggest sales were actually coming from Japan. And
by the way, you made the compilation mix.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's mixtape era. So it's like that's like the whole thing for artists. They want to find a DJ like, oh, I want Ozone to do my mixtape. Like at that time, it was like DJ Rec and Ozone. You know, that was like the quote unquote mixtape man fucking up the game, right? Because it had a very similar aesthetic to when you were listening to like a Gangsta Grills mixtape, except from the Midwest.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, because Chicago DJ, obviously you grew up here.
Yeah.
You never fell into the EDM house type of vibes, or have you? Because I did see you do a couple of things on your stories where you're playing like some modern house, like tropical house, whatever. Yes. But it's not like a full brand house. Like it's not Ozone house music, 45-minute set.
No.
Right. So talk about how you were able to still be Chicago, no house music, but why not stick to the house, or what was it?
Just to be able to be diverse with it. So I like to borrow, like there might be certain genres or certain style music that I won't go out and be like, I'm a house DJ. But I can appreciate house music. I can appreciate house DJs to the point that it's like, I can borrow from this.
Mm-hmm.
I can take aspects from this, like to a point where it was like watching a lot of EDM DJs and me being like, how can I translate this into reggaeton?
Mm-hmm.
How can I translate this into my hip hop sets to create this feel? Or what records can I borrow from this genre to be able to, like, when I do my sets, like, convey that energy, you know? And I've done it, you know, especially my sets that are in spaces that have a great element of production setup always allow me to be able to do that. For example, like, it's unfortunate the things that took place here, but I used to love DJing at Mansion. Mansion's big stage, lights, LED screen in the back,
right?
You know, and then the crowd. So it's like there was able to energy I could create where it was like I was using a lot of EDM records and going back and forth between EDM and dembow, and some of these like 130 BPM records like Pepas, you know, or La Mamá by El Alfa, you know, to go into some Calvin Harris or some David Guetta and then come back, you know.
That's dope.
Get that upbeat, high energy thing going. Because again, I'm not an EDM, I'm a house DJ, but I could appreciate what that feels like when I would go to EDC, you know, and all these other like how's that feel.
I would love to hear a DJ Ozone EDM mixtape.
Man, bro,
can it drop every time?
I'm definitely
that'd be badass. Fucking up the game there, bro.
More open to to the idea now. And I feel like the person that I saw perform that kind of put me in that mental space of that was this EDM DJ named Deoro. Super dope dude. I believe he's from Mexico, but he's like worldwide. And I saw him and I was like, that's what blew my mind. Then from there, it's like seeing how things went. And even now, like even some things I'm involved with. Like there's a party that's thrown worldwide. It's called Perreo Land. We've done 2 in the city, so 2 in the city. Just did a 3rd one in Joliet. But the whole premise of Perreo Land is like you're going to reggaeton party that has an EDM feel.
Okay.
Like if you see if you go on the Instagram,
the Bobby thing, right? Or what's it called?
Yeah,
it's Sueños. Is it kind of like Sueños?
A little bit, but even more, bro. Okay. I think there's a lot of these other parties that are trying to do that, but I think Perreo Land really like
Perreo Land.
Perreo
we gotta
Land,
go. We gotta. When's the next one?
Perreo Land. I think they have the next ones because they do them in different cities and countries.
Oh wow,
Puerto Rico, done in Honduras, Peru, like all over.
Why do you? By the way, before I forget this, because what do you think made you like just be so inspirational in Chicago? Like, what do you think it was? Because I mean, just because you understand my point of view. Right. You got the fashion, you got the unique niche way of DJing.
Yeah.
But out of all of this, you've inspired so many people.
Yeah.
What do you think it was that just really just catapulted you to the top? What was it?
I think just integrating a lot of these things that I felt I saw a lot of DJs before me didn't have. Saw a lot of DJs with the skill, you know, and that again, that's important. But I'm just like,
I wonder if you even know what it was though, because like you really are popular. You understand? Like this guy's really popular, and even to this day.
Yeah.
So it's like
which to me, I don't even think that because I'm like,
well, that's my thing. But
it's good to be humble, bro.
It's
good to be humble,
though. It's like okay, we get Sean Mack, right? We
get
it.
Yeah.
But like you got the same unique style, but it's almost like you, him, like somehow it's just you guys went so far up and respected, and there's technique, and there's a crowd, there's energy, and I'm to be honest, I couldn't do what you do, so I can say that at least, but. I don't know. Do you even know? Like, was there like a special formula that you did? How's this? What would you have done earlier as a teenager to get there faster, to become Ozone a lot faster?
Networking. And what I mean by that is growing up, I was very to myself, very shy, very
timid.
And I think that kind of delayed things a little bit, like
coming out of your show, being able to express yourself,
like
and not feel
we're there. But when it came to communicating and talking to people, I was shy. I've always been like an introvert.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? So it's like, which
is crazy because you're in front of thousands of people.
Yeah, but it's literally like I remember even back when I had like a job and used to work for like, I worked as a social worker. I work as T-Mobile sales rep. Like I went to school for social work, so that I did that for a long time. But it's like people from my job would go see me and they would always be like, "Yo, it's like you turn into a whole different person." And I'd be like, "Yeah," because I know that when I'm up there, I like it's sink or swim, and it's like just lock into this person, and then I get down and it's like I'm back to like just, hey, what's up?
How does that play with like your normal life? Because it's essentially you're doing a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? This is exactly what you're doing, and I can relate to it because being a teacher, you're in front of an audience every day, right? And so like as soon as I get to work, it's like boom, the camera's on, I'm acting, boom, I have to present myself a certain way, I have to do a certain couple of things, and it's like I get home, I am exhausted. I come home and I have to take like a nap, a long walk with the dog. I got to distract myself, and I don't want to talk to anybody for a good 2 hours because all I've been doing is talking for 8 hours and answering 3,000 questions.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know, but teachers answer more questions than surgeons do.
Oh, wow.
On a daily basis. That's how much of what you could interaction they have with people. So it's exhausting, and people don't know that about teachers. And it's like, how do you deal with that if you're like, all right, I'm a DJ, I'm all the life of the party, and then it's like, once you're done, the switch turns off? How do you deal with the switch turning on and off?
I don't think it's really much of a challenge for me because of the things that I got going on outside of DJing. I personally don't have any interest in being DJ Ozone 24/7.
Okay.
I don't, right? Because outside of DJ Ozone, like, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a father, mentor. I can go down the different hats that I wear, and I'm like, being DJ Ozone 24/7 would be exhausting.
Yeah.
If I was in that mode. Also, I have this thing, like, when it comes to like my personal life, I'm very private for the most part. I have this thing that I always say. I'm like, I give the world DJ Ozone in exchange for me to keep Omar.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's like, that's why it'd be like a lot of things that are more personal and family related that I don't really post much, because I'm like, I keep it so DJ Ozone focused, because there's certain things I want to have for me, certain things that I'm like, I want to be able to enjoy it without having it to be kept tabs on, like, what is he doing with his family? Where is he at? Like, things like that. Like,
I didn't even know man, I didn't know you were so are you married?
No.
But you have children?
I have one son.
Nice. How old is he?
12 years old. He'll be 13 in August.
Does he take after you? Does he want to be on the turntable?
Creatively, yes.
Yeah.
Creatively, yes. 1,000%. He's definitely a creative at heart. Wouldn't say DJ, at least not now. And it's something that I never
pushed.
I never was a guy who tries to push things.
It's good.
On their child, because I'm like, I've always wanted my son to have his own identity.
What's his creative outlet?
Drawing, art. Yeah. So he's real big into anime.
Okay. Yeah.
Graffiti right now. That's like his thing. Yeah. Like,
I could definitely appreciate those two things.
Super awesome picture of myself for Father's Day. Like, he framed it and everything, had it framed, and I'm like,
wow.
Oh, and it was like, he's really doing, like, he already had like his first art show at his school, so I'm really pouring into that, because I could tell that's his passion. He's always been a creator, but I'm like, I can really see what direction he's trying to go when it comes to things outside of school and Fortnite. So I'm like, all right. As a kid who grew up infatuated with graffiti, like, I was definitely one of those, rebel teenagers, like, doing all that. I teach it to him, but from a creative art perspective, and he's loving it. And the fact to be able to be there and pour into that, me, his mom, her husband, like, it's a beautiful thing.
I was gonna say, isn't that full circle?
Yeah.
To get someone who invested in you and said, hey, here, take these turntables.
Yeah.
And go with your passion. I believe in you. Don't worry about payment. Pay when you can. Now you have a son who has an artistic value, and he's like, I want to do this. And you're like, dude, I will put all the money I can to breed it, to make sure it grows, to make sure it flourishes into something that you really love. And it's crazy, because we come all from the same background where we're first generation, second generation. So like, it's hard. We didn't have that luxury. Our parents didn't say, all right, cool, we'll send you to DJ school, we'll send you to podcasting school, we'll send you to we didn't have that. It was, this is my passion, I'm gonna sink or swim, I'm gonna work my butt off to do this, I'm gonna learn it myself, I'm gonna pour myself into my passion. It's completely different from now, where you're like, I can support you now, and that's the beauty of being able to make it and now pay it forward, especially with your son. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And to me, it's like always looking at what it can become, because, for example, with my journey with graffiti, like, okay, I didn't become like a big graffiti artist, but what that opened up the door of curiosity was into graphic design, and me developing that skill, which became a skill that later on
helped you with marketing,
using for, designing clothing, but also doing my own flyers and my own branding. That was a big thing for me, where it's like, so many times I would get like these very like cookie cutter flyers like from promoters.
Yeah,
and it's like
template based.
Who did you have do this? I get it. You were trying to save money, but it's like your competitors got some super fire flyers and you want me to post this. And I'm like,
yeah,
this is not going to look good for the brand and what I'm trying to convey. So what I would do is I would make my own personal flyers that would end up being better than the flyers original flyer that promoter do. And then that would turn into, can we just pay you to do our flyers? So see, it's like a domino effect of, so that's why with him being into graffiti art and anime art, I pour into it because it might not end there. It might
it can multiply to different things. Yeah, like
what's gonna be the thing? That
do you think that he might do like maybe comic books or animation? Like he can do so many things you can do with drawing. Like it's an open field.
Before I forget this thought,
go ahead.
The four elements of hip hop. What are they? Let's see.
MC.
Do you know him?
No, I'm letting him do it. Go ahead.
Do you know him?
Yeah, let him do him.
Oh, MC, DJing, breakdancing, beatboxing.
No, graffiti.
You know,
and graffiti. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna say because there's always that debate with like certain hip hoppers where it's like no, it's beatboxing. There's like no, it's graffiti.
Yeah. So
you know, so
it's the 80s, 90s. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's the 80-90 battle.
That's where I was kind of gonna
get
to.
The MC beatboxing is almost similar, but then the one thing I could never do is footwork. So that was never that. But when it came to graffiti, I'm glad you said that because graffiti is modern day graphic design. God, bro.
Yes.
And so like when you see the work that I produce as well, it's like you can see the graffiti in it, and then you can see that's why Ozone has that talent to be able to make his own stuff. It's a brand, and so anybody who's still hip hop knows that graphic design, DJing, MCing, which you do all. By the way, you do all of it. Do you dance?
I know.
You break dance.
No, you know what's crazy is in high school I used to rap.
There you go.
So like my whole gimmick in high school was, obviously we had other artists that I used to rap too, but it was always figuring out like, all right, cool, everybody does it, but what's gonna be my standout was that I could rap in English and Spanish.
Ooh. To flip back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like the,
Are you still writing? Do you still make raps?
I have not done it for myself. Have I been in sessions where I've ghostwritten for artists?
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. And then another thought I have is so you talked about a child, which was super important.
Yeah.
But when we go to the nightclubs and we're like partying, the Hennessy bottles, we get turned up.
Right.
You don't have do you have anxiety of like trying to get back home safe, and like do you ever feel like I'm away from my child in a way, or like because I still have that.
Yeah, I still deal with that because depending on the day or whatever, it's like especially during the summer or like having my son early on is like, okay, I know I can't be, drinking crazy.
Reckless. You can't be reckless. You got somebody counting on you.
And tomorrow, somebody's gonna need my attention. I remember like
in the talk about that
in the early time, like early, my son would be like 1, 2, maybe 3, so around there. Like I remember like the first few times, like my son's might like, oh, I'm outside, and I would have to go get Ezekiel, and I'd just throw myself in the bed, pass out, and it's just him like, wake up, Poppy, wake up.
Yeah.
It'd be like a whole hour of that. And so maybe like after the third time of that, it was like, all right, I'm gotta re-strategize things. And then from there, like,
good for you, man.
I made it a thing where it's like, I'm really big on, and that's something that I preach to like my younger peers about balance when it comes to nightlife, because I've seen people get lost, in a lot of different aspects of nightlife, not just the alcohol, drugs, the women, the lifestyle itself, so I'm always like telling the younger homies, like, I'm not here to say not to have fun because you're young, but just keep in mind that you don't have to drink every single night you DJ. Like for me, I'm like, I'm not drinking every single night that I DJ. I'm actually like prolonging the nights that I drink. So when maybe comes that one night, it's like, oh yeah, this is one of them nights I want to, and therefore I'm limiting and minimizing how much liquor I'm putting in my body, because I'm also big on, working out and staying healthy. And, the Don't get me wrong, liquor could be a good time, but it also could slow down your progress.
So, and then a good follow up is that when you, because I have a 12-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So when you maybe you never thought about this, do you price yourself based on the fact that you have a child, and then I'm gonna go out there from 12 to 4 or whatever time you have and say I'm gonna risk my life for you right now to DJ? Is that ever in the background when you're pricing, or is it just because it's Ozone?
I mean, that's like all that ties into this, right? Because I don't,
because you're expensive.
I don't. Yeah,
he should be. He's got 20 years in the game.
It's just a lot of those things that you mentioned, especially the safety thing. I'm the guy who, came out of DJing at Beauty Bar, gets home, double park, waiting to see if a parking clears. Some guy walks up to me and just empties the whole clip.
Right.
So I've experienced, whole being shot thing, like, safety at risk. And guess what? Like, that was a situation. I didn't owe nobody money. I don't think I was, taking nobody's girl or nothing. So it's like, to this day, I think about it as wrong place, wrong time. Or maybe somebody felt some type of way towards me that I didn't even know I made them feel that way. Because it'd be like that too. There's probably people out there that don't like you and you don't know. They don't like for whatever weird reason, because mental health is a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And there's people out there dealing with certain demons that will make them do some things you would not think of.
Is there a time frame you go, okay, at this age, I'm done with this shit?
40.
That's soon.
Yes.
That's soon.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I've been aligning all the things that I got going on. Like getting more involved in the fashion side of things.
You have a company, right? You have a fashion company?
Definitely, with the whole 60647 market and a lot of the collaborations that, a lot of the creative work that I've done with that project, that, the store, like those are all things that I'm setting up the pieces. But my final one is the coffee shop.
Okay.
Tell me about that. So my whole thing is, this is actually the first time I ever voiced this out loud.
Hey, you're putting out the universe. Let's go.
Yeah, I want to open up a coffee shop creative center in Humboldt Park.
Beautiful.
Growing up in my teenage years, one of the first places I started DJing at outside of before this place, I was just a bedroom DJ. Like I started as a scratch DJ, like literally competing in like Guitar Center spinoff, which like the Guitar Center spinoff was like the DMC competition of like on some more local in the city type thing, like coming up routines for all that. And that was all like in my bedroom. So I literally just used to DJ in my bedroom, coming with these things, these competitions. Mm-hmm. So there was a community space that opened up in Humboldt Park. We're talking about 2003. It was called Bate Urbano.
Oh, yeah.
Bate Urbano.
Yeah, DJs, spoken word, rap battles.
Yeah,
it was everything. Everything everything that was in the culture of the neighborhood was there.
Yep.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Great place. Oh my God.
So your coffee shop wants to bring that back in?
I want to, knowing the impact that didn't just have on me, that I can go down the list of so many people that came out of that place that are doing great things to this day.
Wow.
And just the high regards that it was held, because we're talking about 2003 Humboldt Park, like it's a war zone.
Yeah.
But the fact that there was a space where teenagers could go and be creative. We had our open mic, our rap battles there on Fridays. It's like that space was necessary more than ever at that time. And I feel the same way now. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about a space where it was like you were getting, obviously anybody who's watching this who's not from here, they got to understand there's East Humboldt Park, there's West Humboldt Park, and it's just like a whole breakdown of like, the same way you got to give it better understanding context for, again, people who are watching, they're not from here, Crips and Blood, folks and people.
Yep.
This space is dead in folkshood. We got people coming from the west side of Humboldt Park, which are basically like Latin Kings Unknown, etc. And all these people coming in the same space, no beef.
Like
I
told
all
you,
being connected through
one thing. And for me, it was the park. And for a lot of people in Humboldt Park, it was that space. And it's like, oh no, they're creatives. Let them be. Just let it be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's nearly how it was. Yep.
It's like, they came here to do their thing. They're gonna walk out, be respectful. They ain't gonna bother nobody. Let them be. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to see that. I know. We were talking off air, especially with your brother. We're talking about coffee and house, and this would be a great segue for him.
Yeah. So to have a place where obviously people come enjoy good coffee. I really want to focus on the quality of the coffee and having
So you're still DJ, but just in that shop.
Yeah,
nice.
Having that, but also providing a creative outlet
for the youth,
for the youth, for
everybody.
That was the thing with with Bate. It was like
age didn't matter. Yeah. Age didn't matter. It's wherever you came from, whoever you were, it didn't matter. Yeah. Everyone was invited. Everyone was super nice and respectful. Everybody shook up with everybody. Like, hey man, what's up? What's your name? Yep. It was like such a you get in there with such a breath of fresh air because everyone's ego was just dropped.
Yes.
There was no profiling. It was just like, hey man, what do you do? Oh, you do spoken word. That's dope, man. Cool. I'm gonna do a rap battle on Sunday. Come back, swing back. It was really cool space, and it was just like an inviting atmosphere that it's hard to replicate. It is very hard to replicate, and the fact that they were able to do that for such a long time, it's a credit to the people that put that together.
Yeah, putting the backpackers and the gangbangers in the same room and they're getting along.
Yeah.
I'm a big firm believer that all men have to live an altruistic life for it to be at the very end. And I love what you're saying, bro. That's really good. And so, like, for anybody who doesn't, people can judge you until you sit down and talk to somebody, bro. And so you really open up like a whole different side of you that I don't even know if anyone's ever seen before. So
I get that all the time, bro. Like, especially like today, I'm dressed down. I'm dressed down because I've been.
It's only a $400 shirt. It's okay.
I've been moving around.
The glass is like
the glass are rack.
3,000.
But
he's wearing a house payment right now.
Shout out to Virgil on these.
Nice.
But God rest his soul. But what it is because I was like always into like high-end fashion and all that. I've been into fashion, period. But that's one of my elements. That's one of my elements. And so people would always have these preconceived notions that they see me the way I'm dressed, blah blah, into jewelry, watch, and all that. So they think I'm a certain way. So they actually have a dialogue with me, and they always like say the same thing, like, "Man, I had this whole different idea about you," and it's like Tony is like, yeah, it happens, man.
It's the most common thing. You can't read somebody about, you can't read a book by the cover. You know what I'm saying, like that. So it's just really it is. I didn't know you. And then even off air, just the 2 minutes that we were having a conversation, I'm like, dude, this is a cool dude. It's a great time. And then I'll get to hear your story. It's just been amazing to hear that. And I'm so happy for your success. And I'm happy that not only did you get fed on your creative passions, now you're paying it forward to your son. And then now you're going to do it even more by putting a coffee house together for other creatives and pushing it forward and paying it forward. And that's such a beautiful thing and a way to circle back to everything and just putting everything together. So this has been amazing.
So I love asking this question because as we look back in our past, maybe 10 years later, your son has an honor to watch this again. What would you want to tell him?
I think the biggest thing I would probably tell Ezekiel is, and it might sound like cheesy or whatever, but I would say to follow his passion, follow his heart, and anything that he has in mind to build in, and they will come, because that's literally what it's been. I was somebody who aspired to be a DJ. I wasn't thinking when I literally that thought registered of me being a DJ, I didn't even know you got paid for that, bro. And that went with everything else. When I started making beats, I remember the first time somebody offered me money for one of my beats, I'm like, you want to pay me for this? It was that kind of thing, because it's like it came from a space of from my soul, something that I tapped into that was beyond the dollar sign. Again, that's not to say we're gonna disregard that bills must be paid. And we are trying to create generational wealth, especially amongst Latinos, which is something that I'm a big advocate for, because majority of our parents were so focused on making sure the rent got paid.
Yep, the lights were on.
The lights stayed on, that they didn't think about other things like investments and retirement and things like that.
Yep. And
so my whole thing is like following through with what sparks your soul, and then figure out how to monetize it. Like that, I got that from Jay-Z, low key. I remember like one time they asked him about like his own like making hit single. He's like, I just make the music that I want to make, and then I figure out how to monetize it.
Beautiful.
I love it. Thank you.
Ozone, tell our listeners and our followers where they can find you on all your socials so they can listen to music.
DJ Ozone. Check me out on all my socials, Twitter, IG, TikTok. Is the same thing. It's DJO_zone. Again, that's DJO_ZONE, and that's all across the board. I try to keep it that way just to keep
it simple.
Yeah. And catch me, at the latest venues on my schedule when y'all check me out. Big things on the way.
Beautiful.